All right, let's go through our games of the week. CJ, I'm going to start this off because my Georgia Bulldogs are playing the hated Tennessee Volunteers, and I cannot really get over the fact that this is a 10-point game. The line on this game is between 9 and 10. It's in Athens tomorrow night. Georgia coming off a 24-10 loss at Ole Miss. Tennessee looking to make the playoff. They've already lost a couple games, so kind of whoever loses this game is going to have 3 losses. And we've seen with the college football playoff rankings, they're not going by strength of schedule. They're just going by how many games you lose because they're afraid to make tough decisions. So whoever loses this game is probably going to be on the outside looking in of the college football playoff. I think you also have this game on your list too, right?
I have it on my list just because of the sheer chaos that's going to pop off in the SEC. If things play out the way people think things play out and there aren't any major surprises, right? Like LSU loses to Florida or something like that. You could end up with 7 2-loss SEC teams with 1 spot in the SEC championship game, which would be incredible. I don't know if you have them pulled up. I meant to pull it up. Just the SEC standings. Yeah. Tennessee's got 1 loss. Texas A&M's got 1 loss. Texas has 1 loss. So Texas A&M and Texas are going to play at the end of the year. As long as nothing weird happens in any of these upcoming games against, I can't remember who those 2 teams play, but it's not like it's murder's row or anything like that. You could end up with a situation where Tennessee has 2 losses, 1 to Arkansas, 1 to Georgia. Georgia has 2 losses. Yeah. Ole Miss has 2 losses. Alabama has 2 losses. LSU has 2 losses. Texas A&M has 2 losses. Missouri has 2 losses, and then it becomes and I'm leaving somebody else out. And then it becomes
LSU has 2 at the moment.
And then it becomes because there's not one common opponent all of these teams have played. It comes down to you brought up strength of schedule. That it would come down to your conference strength of schedule. Well, who's getting in there.
So here I said Tennessee has 2 losses. They only have 1. Tennessee, Texas A&M, both 5-1 in the conference. Texas 4-1, Georgia 5-2, Ole Miss 4-2, Alabama 4-2, Missouri 3-2, LSU 3-2. So those are all your 1 and 2 loss teams in the SEC. So 2 teams are going to make the SEC championship game, so somebody's going to get a 3rd loss out of all this. Greg Sankey, commissioner of the SEC, yesterday was on the Paul Feinbaum program, and Paul Feinbaum asked him about this. He's like, what happens if a team gets a 3rd loss in the SEC title game? And Greg Sankey said, I would expect that the committee continues the form of thinking that these championship games, that 13th data point, is more of a reward and a recognition for the work you've done. So that it shouldn't count against you if you lose in the championship game. Last year, Georgia was undefeated, lost the championship game, got knocked out of the playoff. They were number 1 in the playoff ranking, lost the championship game, and got dropped down to number 6, totally out of the playoff picture. So some of the fans responded to this. Georgia was left off the playoff last year because of a loss in that very game. Sankey can go F himself. Sankey is the worst human being in sports. Responses from the fans. Georgia fans are still salty about last year, what happened last year. Just this year, Georgia lost last week to Ole Miss, got dropped all the way out of the playoff thing. Miami loses to Georgia Tech and only drops like a couple of spots. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But this game is going to cause some chaos one way or the other, either way. I mean, even if Georgia wins, but by double digits, which is what the line is, which seems unfathomable as poorly as they played against Ole Miss last week. I mean, I guess the other question is Nico. I know Teresa was talking to you guys about it yesterday.
Yeah.
About he's on the questionable list, concussion syndrome. Who knows if he's able to play or not. But that changes things a little bit for Tennessee, I think. If Tennessee loses this game, though, if Georgia wins this game, it's going to throw everything back into more chaos. Because I saw people being like, well, if Georgia wins, they're going to be fine. They'll be back in the playoff thing. Well, who are they leapfrogging? Right. Ole Miss? Because Ole Miss just beat them. Alabama beat Georgia too. So, I don't know how all this shakes out.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. And this is why we talked about it maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I was thinking more along the lines of the ACC when they have their conference championship game, because it's looking like they were going to be a muddled up mess as well. You got to go to quarterfinals. First off, the SEC stopped playing 8 conference games, play 9. You got to play 9 games, and then you got to go to the quarterfinals. And I'm gonna be honest with you, with this way that the SEC is and the way that the Big Ten is right now, you could probably play 10 games. Give yourself two out of conference. If you want to make it one cupcake, one actual team, knock yourself out. Go to 10 out of 10 conference games. That way, you stand a better chance of having common opponents, and you avoid some of this. Go to 10 conference games. Go to the quarterfinal sort of conference, not quarterfinal, semifinal, excuse me, for your conference championship, and then let's get it from there. The money you can make from an SEC semifinal, you would make a pretty penny. And that's what this is about. So
Georgia plays UMass next week.
Yeah, like get that out of here. I don't need a UMass.
They play Georgia Tech the week after that, which is a It's going to actually be a good game. Georgia Tech's not bad, but that's another non-conference.
You can keep one of those conference games.
Georgia played Clemson to start the year. That's another non-conference game. Yeah. And they played Tennessee Tech at the start of the season. So
terrible.
That's 4 non-conference games that you don't need.
No.
You don't need to play Tennessee Tech. You don't need to play UMass.
No.
In the middle of the playoff hunt. I don't understand why that game's there. But a bunch of the SEC teams this weekend have that type of a game.
Alabama has Mercer. Get out of here. Stop it.
Auburn plays somebody back. Louisiana Monroe. I think.
Come on, man.
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird games.
Get those games off the schedule. We don't need them anymore.
The Jessica Benson Show with CJ Hurt, live every weekday at 8 a.m.